Okay.
Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar on Administrative Data Agricultural Research Collection, ADR England and Wales. My name's Dr. Lola Brooks. I'm a member of the Research Commissioning team here at ADR UK. So reason why we're running these webinars is to ensure those who are applicants like yourselves, either in the audience right now or listening to it, understand what it is we do within the programme and why we fund the research and how you can inform your proposals to the maximum to make sure that what you put forward through an application has the best chance to being awarded some funding. So ADR UK funds research fellowships to enable policy relevant research using our ADR UK flagship data. And this data is underpinned by the ADR UK flagship framework. We want to enable and support new users to our ADR UK flagship data, and our programme is open to all accredited researchers. We want those who invest in using our flagship data and who join our very successful programme of research fellows to build on previous research fellowships and their programs of work. So we always advise you to look at what has been done before with each flagship data, what kind of outputs and deliverables have been generated through data use, because we want to inspire everyone to use the ADR UK flagship data and drive research that benefits society. Now, in order for those in the audience, as I mentioned, and those who watch the videos after, to get the most out of all of these webinars we put together across our research fellowship funding opportunity, is to explain the scope of the research fellowship programme, and there has been a specific webinar on the opportunity briefing itself. I do recommend you having a watch of it if you didn't attend in person. We want to showcase the breadth and depth of research possibilities. So we signpost to areas of research interest for all flagship datasets. We signpost to the data owning departments, key areas of interest, as well as the government priorities. We want to help researchers develop feasible and robust research agendas based on the composition of each flagship dataset, which is why we've invited you here today to be able to engage with those data experts, those most informed, to answer the questions and underpin what's in the data and what's the data potential is. So in this webinar today, we're very fortunate to have Paul and Laura with us who can understand and know and explain the breadth and depth of the ADR England flagship dataset. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen there and invite Paul and Laura to share their slides and inform us on the brilliant possibilities that could be undertaken using ADR. Thank you, Laura and Paul.
Thank you, Lola, and welcome to everybody to the webinar. My name is Paul Caskey, and I am the principal investigator for the ADR project. I've been involved with administrative data for the last 5 years, and feel that it is a resource that provides lots of exciting potential in the field of agricultural research. We're really still in the early days of investigating what's possible. And I'm delighted that you've shown an interest in the subject by attending today. Laura and I are going to talk to you on different parts of our slideshow. I'm going to begin, and then I'll hand over to Laura at a later stage. So our title slide there really sums up what the objective, the aim of the ADR dataset is, and that is connecting the farm households and the businesses that they run, the data from both parts of that equation, and exploiting that to link data to undertake new, original, and interesting research. Next slide, please, Laura. So a quick outline of the program that Laura and I will be covering. I'm going to handle the first 3 bullet points, and then then Laura will take over. There isn't an opportunity today, unfortunately, for discussion, but please do put any questions that you might have in the Q&A, and Lola and Steve are monitoring that and will ask us about it, ask us to answer the questions at the end of our presentation. And if there isn't if there's something we can't answer today, we will come back to you with a fuller explanation. And indeed, the offers, from the ADRC team is that if you're interested in submitting a fellowship, we'd be very happy to talk to you and guide you after the webinar and help you to put together that application. Next slide, please, Laura. So a little bit of background to begin with. The agriculture as a sector in the economy is an area where policy has devolved around the 4 nations of the UK. So there is a degree of difference in the policy that's followed in each nation. And that's one of the things that we've been interested to explore with ADRC, because we have data sets and have created data sets in each of the 4 nations. It's also a sector that's facing enormous change, and that really arises as a consequence of Brexit and the transfer of responsibility for agriculture from Brussels to back to the UK. So the aim is to inform policy development and also address farmer interests by integrating the data that's available on the business and on the people who are involved in family farming, I should emphasize. The organization is around, for the project ADRC, is 2 dimensions. One is to create research-ready data sets and encouraging other people to use them. And that's part of what we're doing today. And the second is to pilot some research of our own. And as I've mentioned already, the data sets that have been created are actually held in safe research spaces in each of the 4 nations of the UK. Next slide, Laura. So a little bit of overview of what we have been doing. We put a lot of effort into developing a network to help us establish the research-ready data sets, to give them legitimacy, if you like, and also to encourage their use. And that's involved a wide range of stakeholders and farmer practitioners. We think its unique selling point is it's a rare opportunity to explore the dynamic formed by an individual, the household in which they live, and the business that at least one person in the household is engaged in, that is farming, and also to look at spatial relationships to do with the location of the farm business. And I think that actually is unique to that package of attributes is unique to ADRC. There's, as far as I'm aware, no other way of actually linking what someone does by way of occupation with the household that they live in. We have are suggesting that there are 4 broad themes of research that are possible using ADRC, and this is we have tried to encourage and indeed test research under each of these themes. That being socio-demographic, linked to the nature of the characteristics of the household, health and well-being, prosperity and resilience, and environment and space. And we'll return to those themes a little bit later. The ethos for the ADRC project is that fellows are encouraged to work with the project team and a wider network. And I'm very glad to say that we have 2 fellows who are currently working on ADRC data, and we have developed a close working relationship with them, and we hope that others will join that community. Next slide, please, Laura. So a little bit about anonymized data linking, how the data set is created for those that haven't had prior experience of administrative data research. The process is to take data sets that already exist in the public sector, government, or some other aspect of government, so that information relating to the person, the household, the organization or place, or even an event can be connected. In order to make those linkages, which is undertaken by a third party, not the researchers themselves, there has to be some way of the identifying data is used to connect the different data sets. That's then removed, and it's possible at that point to conduct research across different data sources without ever knowing actually who the individual or the household is. Records are created in the case of ADRC for individuals or households. In other words, you can actually organize your data so that it relates to individuals and all the characteristics that are connected to that individual, or you can create a household, a farm household, and have a row of data, if you like, that holds all the information about the household. And they're not quite the same, although can be overlap as well. So the research then that is undertaken on this de-identified linked data is done in a secure research space. In other words, the researcher at no time actually holds the data on their own or their organization's computing space. You can, however, once you're an accredited researcher and have made the necessary applications, get, if you like, the key to the secure research space, visit it online and conduct your research in a space that has been created for your project. Next slide, please, Laura. So a little bit more about the administrative data that's held in ADRC. And the fellowship relates, is promoting or providing funding that promotes research that will be undertaken using the England Research Ready dataset. But it is possible to also conduct research using the Wales data, using the fellowship funding. And both fellows that we're involved with at the moment have undertaken to do that. And we haven't got time now, but if you are interested, we could discuss the advantages and disadvantages of conducting it in two different spaces for two different geographies. So the main components of the ADRC dataset are the census of population in 2011. Which holds information about individuals, their educational attainment, their occupations, and the characteristics of their dwelling, the house that they live in, and also about their family. And then there's data on agricultural activity, which is, in this case, comes from the EU Farm Structure Survey 2010. There's information on subsidy payments that have been made to the farm business. And also, there's information held in the Interdepartmental Business Register linked to value-added tax returns that the farm business has made, which can provide some information about the turnover of the business. Much the same business data is held for Wales and for the other jurisdictions in the UK. I should point out at this time that the dates here refer to the original ADRC dataset that has been created. That's data that's now 15 years old. And at the moment, the team is busy generating a refreshed dataset, which holds much the same data, although but built around the 2021 census of population. And although not available at the moment, we hope it would be available by the time that these fellowships go live in the spring of next year. Next slide, please, Laura. So a little bit more about how we have created the research ready data sets, starting off with a definition here. So it refers to all members of a household in England and Wales that have been successfully linked to farm businesses claiming under the single payment scheme. Now, there's a lot to unpack there, and we haven't got time to do it today. What it probably illustrates is that there are different ways that you could create a data set that you might be interested in exploring from those component data sets that I outlined to you a slide ago. We did it this way for various reasons, but the one I will mention now is that the single payment conditionality, in other words, we only really we prioritized those households where a subsidy had been received. And one of the reasons for doing that was that there was a lot of governance around money that's paid out by the Exchequer, and therefore a high degree of confidence that there is actually a farm business connected to that payment. Something that wouldn't necessarily be guaranteed if we used one of the other data sets as the principal linking point for all the data, or a conditionality, I should say. So what does this mean in practice? So this means in practice that we have included households where at least one individual reported an agricultural main occupation in Census 2011, and the same will hold for Census 21 when it's available. And households where no one reported an agricultural main occupation in the census of 2011, but where there was this farm subsidy payment. And who might these people be? Well, in short, they're probably part-time farmers, those whose main occupation is something else than farming, as they have recorded in the census of the population. But we know that the household has received a payment, and therefore there must be a farm associated with it. And that brings an extra dimension to the research as possible. All household members are included along with the person identified as the recipient of the payment, or as the person who's reported themselves to have a main occupation of farming. Next slide, please, Laura. So agricultural data preparations. Agricultural data is collected at different levels. So by that, this illustrates one of the complications here, and one of the reasons why it has taken quite a bit of time to actually create these research-ready data sets. If we take, for example, the EU Farm Structure Survey, not important that you know about that, but basically the data held there is all to do with activities that a farmer has reported that they have been involved in. That is activities such as growing crops, or keeping livestock of different sorts. The way that data is held actually refers to something called an agricultural holding. Keep that in mind for the moment. Another important component of the data set are the record of the subsidies paid to the farmer. Those payments are made at a business level, and the point of all this is that a business and a holding are not necessarily the same thing. They can be. A holding can be synonymous with a business, but as it says on the slide, a household can own more than one business, with each business containing more than one holding. So whilst in the main it's reasonably straightforward, you have one holding, you have one household, you have one business, it can actually be a bit more complicated than that, with more than one household, more than one holding, more than one business, and marrying all those together and understanding the relationship between them all takes quite a bit of time and effort, and something we've been thinking about. So all farm business data that is held within the ADR cohort has been aggregated to a household level. And we can unpack that if people are interested later. Next slide, please, Laura. So again, looking in slightly more detail, as I said earlier, we have structured the research, the ADR UK Research Ready dataset, so that it can relate to a household or to an individual. And we refer to these two groupings as tables. So for the household level table, there's a list of census variables and variables to do with farm activity and to do with other things linked to the household. And then the alternative is that we can run the code differently, if you like, extract the data relating to an individual who's as either said, their main occupation is farming, or we have identified if they're part-time as the person we most think is most likely to be farming. And again, if you like, imagining a spreadsheet, imagine a row of data with many, many columns that relate to the individual. And there will be some common elements between the two formats, but they're not entirely identical. Next slide then, Laura. Yep. So just to give an indication of the amount of data that we have for the 2011 based ADR UK Research Ready dataset, in Wales, we have 18,000 households, and those 18,000 households contain 50,000 people. So if you like, we have 18,000 records, rows relating to households, and 50,000 relating to individuals. Not individual farmers, that includes, other members of the household. In England, it's a much bigger number, England being geographically much bigger, of course, over 50,000 households and 150,000 individuals. But as a proportion of the total population, this is that's a much bigger fraction in Wales than it is in England. But it's still where if you spoke to DEFRA, the lead department with respect to farming, they might indicate 100,000 farm businesses. So it's not a complete census of farming households in that respect, but it's still a very large number, which we think are reasonably of households, that is, that are as a good distribution in terms of the different farm sizes and also different farm types. So still very useful resource. Next slide, Laura, please. So in addition to the data that we hold against individuals and farm households, we also have created control groups, which allow us to make comparison when undertaking analysis between the results or the characteristics of the farmer or farm household and other people living in rural areas. I won't go into the detail here of how we have constructed these control groups, but what I will say is that to give an example, if you are thinking of conducting research on farmer health or farm household health, and you find some interesting result, one thing that might occur is that, is this a feature of farming as an occupation or living in a farm household? If it's another member of the family, or is it connected to the fact that farms, by and large, are located in relatively remote areas and quite far removed from access to medical services such as a GP or a clinic or a hospital. So by having a control group that allows you to make a comparison using the same data, not the farm business data, but the same household data, it allows you to make some sort of an assessment as to whether location is, in that particular example around health, an important explanatory variable or not. Next slide, please, Laura. So key considerations for you to think about before embarking on an application or research in this area. So there are limitations. There always are with research. You never have all the information that you would like. Um, um, all the variables that you would like on the individuals concerned. And that is very true for research-ready data sets because you're using existing data sets that are usually collected for different purposes, and you have to try and link them, these households and businesses, together. And they weren't designed to be linked together for the most part. And that means that there are instances where you can't actually find a household that's related to a particular farm and so forth. So um, that's a big consideration overall. But the other, in a bit more detail here, uh, we would describe the data set as research ready, but not analysis ready. Applications will have to be made to the data owners in order for them to agree, even if you've got approval for funding approval. That can take time and effort to secure that. And also, we have a code which we have developed to create these two cohorts based on household data or on individual data. Um, the project has shared that with the fellows that are currently using the data sets. But if you had and we would be open for a discussion on sharing it with anybody else who applied in the future. But you might have a different idea of a cohort that you were interested in exploring, and therefore might have to develop code in order to use the data that's available. As I said earlier, it's not a census of all farming households, but it is, a very large share of the population by survey standards. But it may not include farmers, for example, who do not claim subsidies, because that was one of our critical criteria that we used as demonstrating real farming activity. And or it could be that we weren't able to link because the address that was used for claiming the subsidy wasn't the same as the residence where the farm family live. Some farm businesses are linked to more than one household. The consequence of that is that depending on how you structure the data, it isn't always additive. Because, for example, if a farm business was associated with two households, the way we would structure that data is that each and say the farm received a payment of £10,000. The way we would hold the data is that household A would have a flag attached to it saying that there was a £10,000 subsidy received, and household B would have a flag saying there was a £10,000 subsidy attached to their farming activities. So we made no judgment on how the £10,000 subsidy was shared between the two households, but you certainly can't add it together and make a £20,000 payment, if you see the point. So just to illustrate it there. And yes, the final point there is that sometimes farmers get other people to apply on their behalf, and that can complicate knowing who received the payment and making the link. Next slide, please, Laura. So having set all that stall out, maybe it'll make a bit more sense as to what is available at the moment if we use a example. And this is an idea. This is Laura created this slide. If you want to move forward, well, I'll talk through it and let's see what we know about this farmer. So you imagine you can either format the data so it relates to a farmer or to a household. This example relates to a farmer. So we have there in the center a 35-year-old male. We don't know, we never know the name, but we've always called this 35-year-old male Alex. I don't know why, but there you go. And what we do know is that, to start with, Alex lives with his partner and two children, comes from the census population, and we know that his spouse works part-time as a primary school teacher because of information again held in the census of population. We know that it is a medium-sized dairy farm from information on activity. And we then know a bit more in quite a lot of detail what that farming activity relates to. So the main enterprise is 150 cows. That's why it's been identified as a dairy farm, but they also grow some wheat. We know there that they have received a subsidy of £50,000 in 2011, and that there is a turnover for the business of £500,000. The family live in a detached house, which is often the case in farming, which they own in their own right, no mortgage. But we also know there's no central heating. Now, if it was a different sort of farm, if it was a tenanted farm, then they may well the house they may not own the house. It may be attached to the tenancy. We also know that the Alex the farmer has a further education diploma. So that's just illustrative of the type of data that's held, but it does show that it's quite wide-ranging and can be quite detailed in some respects. Next slide, please, Laura. So I'm almost finished at this point, but just we'll then briefly revisit the research themes that I identified earlier and just give an example of what could be done under each. So next slide, please, Laura. So I mentioned there were 4 research priorities. So under the socio-demographic banner, you could imagine a question around, do part-time and full-time farmers have different socioeconomic characteristics? And we have actually delved into that a little bit. And for example, one aspect of that could be education, and we have uncovered differences in educational attainment between those whose main occupation is farming and those whose main occupation is something else. But there's scope to do a great deal more on that particular subject area. Health and well-being. How does farmer and farm household member general health compared to the control group or the general population? If there's a particular morbidity that people are interested in, that could be compared again with the controls, and interesting results there. There's certainly amongst stakeholders a belief that there are some conditions that where farmers experience greater illness than the general population. But a lot of that evidence is anecdotal. It could be, to give an example, diabetes, that farmers, for example, have a lot of higher levels of diabetes in the general population. That could be explored with links through to health data for farmers and farm households. Another question then around prosperity and resilience is, but how dependent are farm households on farm income and subsidies? And one of the participants in the call today, Paul Wilson, is currently investigating that. Again, there is a lot that could be done in that space. Again, you might want to return to that in your questions. And then finally, environment and space. Is the type and frequency of off-farm employment correlated with farm location? So this is not something we have explored, but for those there's an interest in farm diversification. There's an interest in increasing the resilience of the farm business by reducing the amount of dependence on agriculture as a source of income for the household. You could imagine exploring the data around what other members of the household are doing, and are there any patterns that emerge there in terms of farm households, and are they different from the rural control group, people living in the same geographical space but who have a different occupation profile? And again, why would that be, and what would that reveal about the farming population? So those are just some illustrations. There are many other things that could be done, but again, we'd be interested to hear more about your ideas. Next slide, please, Laura. So this is the point at which I hand over to Laura for the remaining slides in the presentation.
Thank you, Paul. I can't see or hear anyone. Well, I can hear Paul, but I can't see anyone. I'm hoping you can hear me. So I am going to briefly talk about something as an addition to the Research Ready dataset, which is a synthetic dataset that the team has put together. So this is to sort of represent the Wales dataset, even though we've tried to be as consistent as possible, as you can see by the variables and the data sets that we've included in England and Wales. We've used Wales as a basis for the synthetic data set that we've put together. So just to give you an idea of what this is for, the synthetic data set we've put together is to give researchers a feel for the research ready data set before they apply, or for anyone who has already applied and they're waiting for approvals, they can sort of use the synthetic data set to remind themselves sort of what it will look like, what the real data set will look like. This is available on the ADR website. So there's a link at the bottom of the slide here, which means any of you could just go onto that link and look at the synthetic data set if you wanted to. And to give you a bit more information about what the synthetic data set is like, it is low fidelity. And by that, I mean the variable names and labels follow the real structure of the actual data, but there's the addition of SYN underscore at the beginning, so SYN, and then the variable name. All of the figures are randomly generated, so they fall within a similar range, but just to really emphasize here, they do not resemble the real figures. You can't use these to represent the real figures. We have in some cases included an upper or lower limit on the figures that we've included. So for example, farm size, we've put an upper limit on, so SYN underscore farm size, because we didn't want any really unrealistic figures. For farm size, we didn't want something that was a ridiculously large size. So we've included an upper limit for that one, for example. Because the figures are randomly generated, the totals and relationships between the variables have not been preserved, and therefore it is not suitable for analyses. So this is to give you a feel for the data. It's not to be used in place of the data. And finally, I just wanted to say we have put this together with permission from the various data owner, information asset owners. So that's for the EU Farm Structure Survey, Rural Payments Wales, and Census 2011. Next up then, I know Paul has mentioned this briefly, but I just wanted to go into a little bit more detail about what the team is working on at the moment. So we are putting together 2021 versions of the Research Ready datasets. So the ADR 2021 Research Ready datasets for England and Wales are not yet available, but they will be made available in 2026. So I've listed here the data sets included for England 2021 and Wales 2021. So both of them have the Census of Population 2021. Then it's the June survey of agriculture and horticulture. That's instead of the EU Farm Structure Survey, obviously, because we're no longer in the EU. Rural payments, and then the Interdepartmental Business Register. As you can see, the years differ for England and Wales, apart from the Census 2021, and that's just based on recommendations from the data owners about the best available data. If you are looking at this and you're interested in the 2021 Research Ready dataset, please do reach out to us in about January. We're working really hard to finalise these, but they're not available yet. So if you make a note to reach out to us in January about these, or in advance if you did want to, it might be possible for you to apply for the 2021 datasets. However, that would have to be in addition to the 2011 ones, because obviously for this fellowship, we are talking about 2011, but there might be the option of also applying for 2021. One more thing I wanted to mention about this is any comparison that you would be making in your analysis between the 2011 and 2021 datasets, if it's available in time, that would have to be at population level. So you're not following an individual from their record in 2011 to 2021. You'd be doing population level comparative analysis of the two research ready datasets. Next up then, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank ADR UK for including us in the fellowship call. And also to all of our funders and stakeholders who've been heavily involved in shaping this project. We've included some text on this slide and some key stakeholders for the project there. In terms of accessing the data, so as Paul has already said, research is conducted on de-identified data in a secure research space. Unfortunately for England and Wales, that data is held in different secure research spaces. So for the England data set, that would be accessed via the ONS Secure Research Service. If you also wanted to access, also wanted to apply for the Wales data, because England is something you would have to apply for, and then Wales, if that's something you would also like to apply for, you can do that, and that is accessed via the SAIL data bank. Prior to access, projects need to be approved by the relevant panels. So for the SAIL data bank for Wales, that is the Information Governance Review Panel, or the IGRP. And then for the ONS Secure Research Service for England, that is the Research Accreditation Panel, or RAP. The data can only be accessed by trained and accredited researchers. Researchers who are fully accredited under the Digital Economy Act 2017 can apply for access. There's more information available in our user guide and data dictionaries, so I've got a link to those on the final slide, and these will be sent around afterwards if anyone's interested. Finally then from me, we've just put this slide together because we thought it would be quite useful. It's just a lot of links and contact details that we thought would be useful. So the ADR documentation, that's where we have our user guides, data dictionaries, and we update them on there. So it's worth using those versions if you, as opposed to sort of downloading a copy and assume it. Yeah, we update them on there basically if a change has been made. And also the synthetic data set is on that link as well. We have the ADR UK ADARC project page, the ONS Secure Research Service, where you can access the England data, and the SAIL data bank, where you can access the Wales data, and then our email address for our mailbox at the bottom. We're very happy to support any potential applicants. So if you have a proposal or you want to discuss anything, please do reach out to us if you'd like to. And thank you very much for watching. That's everything from me. So I will stop sharing.
Thank you very much. Am I back on screen? Yes, that was brilliant. Thank you very much, Laura and Paul. It's really nice to hear the whole kind of the history of the data set, what's gone into the data, and then piece it together with the possibilities. I am going to ask Steve if there's been any questions in the chats at all.
Yeah, hi. Yes, echo that. Very interesting, Paul and Laura, so thank you for that. We have a question at this moment in time, so if you are busy typing away, please continue while we try and answer this one. But the question is, at what scale is the farm location information? For example, latitude and longitude, county level, or something else?
Something else, I think, is the answer to that one. So it's the lowest level of geography that is maintained, within the ONS system, which is an LSOA, I believe. And Laura, I can't remember what LSOA, lower standard output.
Lower layer surface output area. Yeah.
So that is it isn't a uniform size in terms of square hectareage or area, because it relates to population, so a certain population within the area, but you can't have the longitude and latitude of the farm business, because that would reveal potentially reveal the identity of the business and the household. So that's out of the question. So it has to be sufficiently high so that inadvertent disclosure of the personal detail or the identity of the individuals is avoided. But it's still, it's still allows a good degree of disaggregation depending on what your particular interest is.
Thank you. Thank you. Lola, I think we have had some questions submitted as well. I don't know if you've got anything there, perhaps while we just wait for anything else to come in.
There was something that was emailed in from a general inquiry, which was, can ADR be linked to any other data sources, particularly those that might hold educational records from those that are within the farming families?
Do you want to go for that, Laura?
Yes, I'm trying to think if it differs for England and Wales. Apologies, as I'm the Welsh government lead, but I don't work on don't work on the data specifically.
Well, I think. Sorry for actually putting you on the spot now, Laura. It wasn't my intention. I think the short answer is yes. And the long answer is that, as Laura was saying, it differs for England and Wales. The actual availability of data varies too, because there are different approaches in England and Wales. Although the focus here really is England, I'll refer to Wales first, because it is generally a bit more permissive. So if there is data on education held within the SAIL database or data center, which is the Safe Research base in Wales, then in principle it is available to any researcher. But as Laura was saying, as part of her talk, you have to apply to the data owner and the panel has to approve it. So it's yes. In England, we did actually, at an earlier stage in the project, explore the possibility of getting linking our data through to eChild, which is a really big England data set on education. I think we didn't pursue that fully, and we haven't exploited it. But if the interest was education, yes, there is a possibility to forward link. But you would have to make that very clear in your application, and do a bit of homework on. Talk to us certainly about the nature of the household data and what we thought about the feasibility of making the link, and speak to the data owners about their interest in supporting such an application.
Brilliant, thank you. There was another question that came in, and it was asking about because I think they must have looked at your website, because I think you mentioned synthetic data was up and coming on your website, and they were saying, was there any training around either the data set or potentially using the synthetic data, or something they can kind of start to unpick with others who are informed what is in the data? Because I think they were struggling to get their head round the different layers.
We're in conversations about this at the moment, because it's a sort of, we've created this resource, and it's we're trying to work out how to most effectively use it. So we're going to speak to some other projects who have used synthetic data for a training resource. The answer at the moment, we're hoping to do something like that, but we've not started that process yet. We're speaking to other projects about it.
But in the absence of any training as such, if the person who asked that question would like to contact the project team, we would be very keen to try and answer your questions directly, as to explain in a bit more detail than was possible today, about what's held, how it's held, how it might be explored. So that might be the best approach in any case, is to talk to us and ask us the question, and we'll do our very best to help.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm on one screen as well, so I'm trying to jump between.
That's why we're working in tandem here. But yes, there is another one, Laura, and you mentioned this, and I think Paul, you touched on it as well. But just quickly, just clarify, will fellowship applications based on the 2021 data set be permitted for this funding opportunity, or is it purely focused on the 2011 data set?
Do you want to go, Paul, or shall I? I'm happy either way.
Yeah, you go for it, Laura.
Yeah, they would have to include 2011. We're working to a deadline at the moment of the end of December to finalise the 2021 data sets, but obviously there is a process that that assumes, you know, we don't have any final issues along the way, and also they would need to be the information needs to be sent to SAIL and the SRA and the Secure Research Service so that they can make it available to other researchers. So there's that little sort of buffer time. That's why we're saying for anyone interested in 2021, in addition to 2011, it has to be in addition to 2011, to reach out to us directly. End of December, January is when I would say, because until that point, we're going to just keep repeating the same thing, that it should be ready, but that's what we're going to keep saying. Yeah.
Okay, no worries. And then I think from us as ADR as a funder, I think it's also worth noting that there may be a possibility, if it's not quite ready in time and available, that in theory it is possible that a change request could be made to have additional information from that data set placed in your project space, but obviously that will be a process in itself in terms of getting that approval from the various data owners, so just bear that in mind as well. So brilliant, thank you. There's another one here as well that I think is worth asking. So regarding the linking to health data, which data sets might we tap into? What's already there? For example, is there anything on mental health? Good question.
Well, for the England data, no. We did again undertake preliminary discussions with data owners, but our request was too general. It was, you know, in the sense that it was very general. They were sort of pushing back against the request. As it turned out, we probably wouldn't have had time to do much investigation, but it is available in principle. There was a positive response. I'm remembering actually that the main issue that the relevant approval panel had was that they were satisfied that we were engaging with farmers, and that the research would have legitimacy in terms of engaging effectively with farmers who are the subjects of this particular research effort. But they were querying how are you going to talk to the control group. And that was a much more that put us back, made us think, because it wasn't straightforward. How do you you can think of ways in which you can reach farmers through representative organizations that actually have an interest in farmer health and well-being, like RABI as the acronym for one, but all the people who aren't farmers, how do you talk to them? So maybe we'll have come up with a potential solution, but that is still to be fully realized. If you are really interested in pursuing farmer health and well-being issues, it's likely possible to do more in Wales. But you have to remember here that the focus of this funding is England, but Wales research is permitted. So, I may be speaking out of turn, but I would suggest, a conversation. But it could be one of those areas where you can't you can't just focus on a request on Wales. It has to include England in terms of scope. It doesn't have to include Wales. But if you could structure an application whereby maybe you did more in Wales, but did satisfy the conditions of doing something in England, is my suggested solution. The issue here is that it does take quite a lot of time to get the data owner and panel permissions. I think this is something that ADR is working on to try and speed up the process. It has, I'll be honest, it has been frustrating to us at times as a project, especially when you're dealing in 4 jurisdictions around the UK and there's different sets of people and different processes. For this fellowship, of course, it's just England and Wales, but that is, has its own, still entails quite a lot of process. And I think for the fellows that have engaged, it has taken them longer than expected as well to get access to the data. So, my takeaway from that is, be really focused on what you want to do. Make sure that's the data that you only apply for that data that you really need, and start, applying and thinking about the application process as soon as possible.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, please correct me if I'm wrong here, Paul, but for Wales specifically, I think we have, there should be availability of GP data, accident and emergency data.
Prescription data, I think.
Yeah, there's quite, so yeah, as Paul said, there's quite a lot that we separately to this research ready data set that us as a project have been able to acquire separately. So
yeah.
And
yeah, so we have been, again, in Wales, there's it isn't automatic, but there is a presumption that if people have provisioned data to sale on any aspect of the public data, then it's subject to legitimacy checks and the fact that the research is feasible, and that the researcher has demonstrated that they have a suitable method, then the answer should be yes to its access, to its use. So again, I think you could imagine an application that addressed the same broad topic in terms of health and well-being, but delved a bit deeper in Wales.
Excellent. Yeah, really. Yeah, it does highlight that there are two slightly different regulatory regimes, so to speak. So, yeah, there's definitely still work to be done there to improve that process. Certainly agree with you there. So, I've got one more question that's come in, and I'm conscious of time here as well. So this one is: could a research proposal cover 2 out of the 4 research themes, or should the focus be on one theme? How ideal is this for comparative analysis, if I think I've interpreted that correctly?
That's a difficult one to answer, and without knowing more about the specifics. But I would say that if the questions were interrelated and there was a value in pursuing it in a joint effort, then why not? If it's critical to actually getting a good result. But it will make it more complicated in terms of organizing the data and getting your permissions and so forth, and it will take more time. And I would, based on our experience, caution against making the research question more complicated than it has to be. I would, if it was. We need to know more about the specifics. Those themes were constructed entirely for us, so that's a bit artificial. That's the only thing I would say. If there is, a question that seems to straddle the two, but maybe it's only, on paper, then that's a different question. We just organize it that way to help people think about the possibilities, really, in terms of the questions that could be asked. So they aren't discrete in the sense of being entirely divorced from one another.
And there is room then for those sort of curiosity driven research approaches that you may want to take as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Lola, I think we're run out of questions for now.
We've run out of time. That was brilliant.
We have run out of time, so back to you.
Sorry, while I work on my tiny screen. Thank you very much, Laura and Paul, for your time this afternoon. It's really appreciated, and I am hopeful and sure there will be lots of. Am I just sharing my own slide? No, I am not. Good. There'll be lots of opportunities for engagement going forward, and to pose an application for ADUC. Just to highlight, we do have a few more data webinars coming up, and we also have the Community Catalyst research agendas. So if you haven't signed up to them and want to come along and see and be informed of any of the other data sets, there's still time to sign up. And if you've missed any of the recordings, including the opportunity briefing and how to write a good funding application, these are both and all have been recorded and on our website. If you do have any questions about the opportunity briefing or the research fellowships in general, please do get in contact with us. And the same, if you have any questions for the ADUC team, the slides will be shared after, and there'll be contact details there, so you can get in touch with them and discuss any kind of higher level questions you have on use of the data set. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Cheerio.